This is another one of those planes that I consider possibly the most successful airplane of all time. I think that it would be the B-52, but this, the C-130 Hercules, would be right up there with it. It first went into action in the early 60s, I believe, and it's now used, that original use was for carrying equipment and troops into areas where you maybe only had a short runway or a dirt runway, and it could land and take off in very short space for the amount of equipment it could carry. It has since gone on to be used for everything from fire suppression to the Coast Guard uses it to locate people. It's being used as a refueling plane. And in this case, this is the AC-130 Gunship. My fifth grade teacher has a relative who flew one of these in Vietnam. It was called Puff the Magic Dragon, right, Ms. Calabrese? And I've got two friends who, one's been on the ground and requested one, and the other, that's Dick Balsamo, and the other is Andy Gramlich, both veterans in Vietnam. And Andy called these things in on a regular basis. And both of those guys have said, it is scary to see this thing do what it does. What happens is, there's multiple guns down on this side, and the guns have been changed over the years. There's 105 millimeter cannons, one of them, very rapid fire 105, and then there's 20 millimeter and 30 millimeter Gatling guns. And when the thing will fly around an area, you know, with the guns aimed at the ground, and if you look it up on YouTube, you can see video of it. It essentially looks like these fingers of light at night are extending out of this airplane onto the ground. And the light is just the tracer fire. That's how fast it fires. The guns are so fast, they're faster than on any other airplane because this plane can carry so much ammunition. It can just fire as much as it needs to. So if you're on the receiving end of it, you're in a very bad place. And we're still using this thing regularly in Afghanistan and Iraq and the various places we fight. So this is the AC-130 Gunship. People want to know a lot of times about the build. I learn things from time to time. My friend Forrest asked me about this the other day, and I said I learn things when I'm building these planes occasionally. One of them is, if you notice the wings as it comes at you, the wing's very thick, right? Well, that's the way it is on the real one. And I realized because this thing's so heavy, and this weighs almost 10 pounds just out of Legos, okay? Because it's so heavy and it was designed to heavy lift, carry tanks and things like that inside it. It had to have a really beefy wing. Well, I ended up having to make a beefy wing. It also has this giant tail, okay? The tail keeps it oriented correctly going forward, which there can be a lot of strain on the plane going from side to side. So it has to have a fortified lower tail section through here where my thumb is. And I had to come up with a way to do that. Now Lego nowadays, set this aside, Lego now makes these parts that I had never really used that much. We call them techniques parts. I didn't have them when I was a kid, but these are techniques, and they've got all these holes on them, and they have these little pins that go into the holes. And essentially, what you do is you take what would be a normal beam, and you can extend that beam with another beam, and they lock together, okay? And now you have an even longer one. So I actually have, doing this kind of thing, and I have 6 of them in the tail section of this plane. There's 6 of them holding that where I'm holding it right here. And you can see it's strong. I mean, I can just hold the whole thing up by it. And I can also hold it up by the wings. And the reason I can hold this much weight, a 10-pound thing with Legos, is that I used those technique systems. And I've never really used them that much before, but I'm using them now, and I really need them with this. So anyway, that's it. This is also, without question, the largest thing I've ever built out of Legos. The wingspan is a little bit, in this build, is a little bit smaller than that B-52 I made a few weeks ago. But the overall build, the number of Legos that had to go into it, and the amount of interior work I had to do to keep it stable in the middle so it didn't just break apart. This plane is the biggest thing I've ever built. C130 Hercules, in this case the AC-130 Spooky or Spectre or Puff the Magic Dragon.